This episode of the Misdirected Mark podcast is brought to you by Wayward Masquerade, the creators of Bagthulhu, and the Queen City Conquest, Western New York's premier gaming convention.
This is the Misdirected Mark podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, and you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Man, you know, I was thinking, while Bob was away, that we should have someone else host the show.
You mean like Nikki did for the last 2 weeks?
No, I mean, I'll take Bob's spot, and I was thinking that, Glenn Seiler, he could take mine.
Are you sure about this? I mean, there's like a chemistry thing that we have that makes the show, well, you know, like the show.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but Glenn, he's a cool guy, and you and Glenn have a lot in common, and we game with him, so let's give him a try.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey Glenn. Glenn, I talked to Phil, and he's cool with you doing the show, so do you want to give it a try?
Sure, and welcome to the 271st episode of the Misdirected Mark podcast. Tonight we talk about adding new players into your existing game, and then we roll around to the social media depository to talk about the hottest chatter in the community. And with that, my name is Glenn.
And my name is Chris.
And I'm Phil.
And here we are.
And you've messed up my feng shui, man. You're killing me with this changing position.
Well, you know what? If we have to, we'll appropriate some funds and get you a massage.
When you said that you were going to take Bob's spot and Glenn was going to take your spot, I thought you meant physically.
I wanted to, but we don't have a secondary computer.
I see.
Because the laptop
I
use...
get it. I know how it works.
Yeah.
I understand.
I don't like when mommy and daddy fight.
We're not fighting.
We're not fighting. This is Phil being a diva complaining that he doesn't like actually his space messed with. It's like when we first got the pop screens we no longer use. The pop screen messed with me for like 3 weeks. I had like a small fit about it.
Actually, kind of the reason we don't use it anymore because Phil's kind of a diva in some ways or
That's
whatnot,
true.
and people can't see him on camera. So as soon as I tell him that he has to turn his face so they can only see his profile instead of his eyes, so it's harder for him to look at the camera, he flips out on me.
Yeah. I have a rider. My contract has a rider.
You should have saw this place beforehand. There was things being thrown. There was talk of quitting. There was tears. There was hugs. There was love. And then we're here.
I'm like essentially like all of Van Halen wrapped up in one when it comes to riders and stuff. Like I'm like, yeah that's how bad I am.
I thought that was the hazing.
Yeah, no. Van Halen was a band from the 1980s.
Get the pop slaying out early.
Yeah, known for many songs, but the album Jump in particular.
David Lee Roth was the singer.
One of them, yes. Oh, the one on record. One could argue the Van Hagar versus. I mean, I don't know. I have feelings about both, but
sure,
it's definitely different.
I think we all do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess I should ask this because why not?
Sure.
Glenn, what is going on?
Well, I just got back from vacation. I was in the Outer Banks, and it rained for most of the week. So, like any good gamer, I went to a game store. I actually went to a very nice game store down there, and I ended up getting Gloom, which was appropriate.
No, that's such a good game.
It's a very good game.
So it was fun. I played that with my girlfriend, who I went with. And then when I came back, the next day, I played Mask with you folks, which was tons of fun.
Woo!
Not as intense as the first time I played, but it was good enough. It was a lot of fun.
I learned that you don't take away the superhero's powers in that game because the game doesn't really work anymore at that point.
Yeah, we might go into the after show a little.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Yeah. And then yesterday, I was actually off work yesterday. So I had the post-vacation blues, so I ended up playing Mass Effect and Andromeda for my post-vacation video game therapy.
Nice. It's good.
And I registered for Breakout 2018.
Oh, sweet.
So lots going on.
Yeah, I haven't done my Breakout registration. I just started looking at dates and stuff like that for Metatopia.
Cool.
Because I'm definitely going to do Metatopia this year. I've been telling myself that for a few years. I'm going to do it. Do you want me to go?
Does anybody want to ask me or you?
Do you want to go?
Glenn, the whole purpose then
is
Glenn,
you have to kick
so
it to
what's
somebody
going on
else.
with you?
So
that's right. We didn't tell him that. It's okay.
Oh, man. I just stripped. Oh, flow. All right.
Don't misdirected Mark word scramble.
So, Chris, what's going on with you?
Okay, so I played Masks. I ran some Masks. Do not take the powers away from the player characters. That doesn't really work. I didn't run. I played some DCC because we played the rest of the Secret Shrine of Cernix.
Yeah, that was a kind of crazy.
It's kinda
I mean, I
crazy.
loved it. It was great. It was really kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I also ran some Star Trek, which now there's a dead Borg cube flying, hanging out in space because they put a bomb on it that killed all biology. On
Oh,
there.
nice.
So the mechanical parts are still working okay, but next time we play, the crew of the USS Jeffries has to go and search the Borg cube.
Here's what I'm going to tell you.
Hmm.
You want an opponent for them?
Huh?
Packlids.
Packlids?
Mm.
Why Packlids?
Well, it's just a bunch of tech floating out in space now. Packlids, man.
Okay. Also ran some Over the Edge. That was really fun. It was the end of our Over the Edge mini arc. That was
Nice, because that was the playtest, right?
I mean, we're going to play one more session because there's this thing called the Blue Room that's in their office that is sort of a weird space in their office. Like every time they open the door, it's a little different.
Everything's a weird space in Alamara.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And then on Saturday night, I was hanging out with Tangent Twin Katie and Tangent Twin Dave and Tim Jones and Carl Shimchek, former hosts of the network.
Yep.
And Jesse, who is also a former host of the network on a show, the Geeking It Out. She has a colostomy bag that she's getting removed.
Yes.
So we all hung out and we took the rest of her colostomy bags and we put googly eyes on them glued them on there and made like little designs with them. It was pretty fun. Dave was looking forward to that for forever. So there you go. That was a good time. That's what I did. Phil, what about you? What's going on with you?
Well, I finished Sprint 5 of Hydra Hackers and packaged all of it up. So I have my playtest group is getting yet another rule book, playbooks, and move sheets. I think they're starting to get used to it. Like every couple of weeks, I now hand them like all new stuff. So that's done, and I'm actually not going to do any more development on it until after Queen City Conquest. The Sprint 5 is the Sprint version of the rules that I'm bringing to Queen City Conquest. So I have that done, and this week I'm working on the adventures that I'm going to run at QCC. I played some Hydra Hackers this week with my playtest group, a portion of my playtest group. Brandon and Eileen were still traveling back from their vacation. So I had Nikki, Senda, and Emily, and had a really good session. It was 2 hours of a lot of fun and very PBTA. Like I was very happy. It was doing exactly what it needed to do. So I was pleased with that. I also played some DCC with you. That was a blast. It was kind of a nutty. I don't want to say nutty. The last scene is this very chaotic battle, and there's like 3 entities trying to vie for the players to do stuff, and there was a lot of a couple of people got killed in the crush, but in a very OSR moment, the main bad guy we took out. We diffused the situation because. Can I tell this story or should I wait?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so very OSR moment. We're in this couple scenes before the finale. We're in this alchemy lab, and so I'm like, my dwarf just takes some bottles and puts them in his sack, and so JJ's like, "What do you take?" And I'm like, "My dwarf's pretty dumb. Like he can't read any of this stuff, whatever it's written in. So I take a blue one and I take a red one." So we get to the final encounter. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to mix these and throw them at the bad guy.
True dwarf fashion.
Yeah. So I'm like, he's like, well, how do you do it? I'm like, well, I pour some of the blue out, then I just pour the red into the blue, swirl it and throw. So I make a couple rolls. So he's like, make a luck check, make a roll this die. He's like, okay. He's like, the flask lands at his feet, explodes. This pink cloud comes up. And who's the nearest character? And it's one of Chris's characters. Burke, right? It was Burke. And so this guy, what was it? Father Brown, right?
Yeah, Father Brown.
Right. So Father Brown turns and looks at Burke and he's like, my love, where have you been?
That was great.
totally made an aerosolized love potion. Yeah. And so immediately he stops fighting us because he's like now trying to talk to Burke. And then eventually we have to put him down. Like eventually there's some stuff that happens. I don't want to give away the whole thing, but it was really funny. And it was totally random. Like it was random table stuff for what the potions would do when mixed. So it was so OSR. Like it was
Very cool.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. Played Masks. Got a little dark when my powers went away. Probably going to have to apologize to that when we get to the surface. That's
Yes, I totally... you know what? I was trying to black that out of my memory. I'm like,
right. Got a little dark on that one.
The chat room is trying to make me laugh because I said I wouldn't tonight.
Yeah.
From them. I mean, you guys might make me laugh. But
Yeah. We'll see what we can do. I started watching Voltron season 1.
it's so good.
It is very good. I just got to what is it? The Palace. I don't want to give away too much stuff, but
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
yeah, it's good. And still watching some Steven Universe.
Uh-huh.
Also ridiculously good. Steven is now starting to become pretty badass.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, there's like a jump from season 2 to season 3 where suddenly Steven has like all of Captain America's moves.
Uh-huh.
Which is pretty awesome actually, but yeah, there's a good one between him and Amethyst when Amethyst gets upset when she thinks she's not that Steven's too good of a fighter, and they're competing on who's the worst fighter.
Yeah.
And I finally registered for some QCC events. Like I have stuff on the books because I'm doing stuff, but I was like, I should actually play something while I'm there.
I have 0 events registered to play in.
So I'm going to play some Swords and Wizardry with our guest host, Stacy. It's the adventure she actually wrote for Frog God Games.
Zaya's Promise.
Yes, I'm really excited. I read the little blurb to it, and I was like, oh, it looks so good. And I'm going to play some Rockpocalypse. Rockalypse. I keep wanting to say Apocalypse because it's all post, but Rockalypse. I'm going to play, I'm hoping for a Keytar.
Oh, wow. Steven Universe is on Amazon Prime. I can watch it on Amazon Prime.
That's good.
That.
I know it's, I didn't know, Paul. Did they pull it off Hulu?
No, it's on Hulu.
No, it's on Hulu too.
That's where I've been
it's on
watching
both
it.
places.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still watching on Hulu.
I don't have Hulu.
Yeah. So, so I'm going to play some Rockalypse. Like, I'm really excited. Like, I want a Keytar. Can I get a Keytar, do you think?
I mean,
Do you think Eric would hook me up with a Keytar? All right. I'm going for Keytar. Oh, and I see Rob. I see Rob in the chat room. Rob, that game's on Sunday. You should play with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you should play. It's 10 o'clock on Sunday. 10 o'clock on Sunday.
I think he's in my Dungeon World game, which is at like noon or 1.
Man, all right, whatever. All right.
He paid for the Dungeon World experience.
Well, I'm just saying. I get it. I got like 2 years of the Dungeon World experience. Is great.
12 hours of Dungeon World with me.
Yeah. Good luck.
It'll be fine.
Surviving.
He'll survive. Most people survive. I don't think anybody died in that campaign.
Watch out for Oldvec, man. Oh, I died 3 times.
You didn't die. You rolled. You saved.
I went to the Black Gates 3 times.
It doesn't count unless you fail.
I don't know. I was at 0 hit points. I feel like that counts for something. It's just my luck that I came back. It's not even luck. Death doesn't want Corin.
No, not really.
It'd be like that scene from The Watchmen.
I mean,
you guys got it all wrong. You're trapped in here with me.
It's funny because if you would have died, it would have been the Queen of Horfrost and Woe that would have taken your spirit and put her in her court forever.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, I just assumed that was going to happen.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, Corin was 3 times knocking on heaven's door. Anyway, that's that. Before you jump into announcements,
sure.
Can we send some well wishes to
Sean?
one of our podcast, one of our podcast brothers?
Absolutely.
Sean P. Kelly. I think a lot of people know this. Was in a motorcycle accident. He and his wife over the weekend, and it could have been really awful. It wasn't trivial by any means. They were both in the hospital for some time, but we give a shout out to Sean P. Kelly. We love him, and we hope he and his wife recover quickly, and that they're okay, and that everything works out in the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, fast healing, best wishes, Sean. Okay. Announcements?
I just want to read a really terrible joke first from the chat room.
Oh, please.
Because Craig, I believe, just Craig.
Yes.
He said, "What do you call a bard that dual classes as a thief? A looter."
But
They're being.
Are they like trying to dad joke you or something?
I mean, yeah, like they've.
That's like a pretty. That's.
Do you know why You know what mountains are, Chris? Yeah. You know what? Do you know why they're funny? No, why? Because they're hill areas.
Oh, haha.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, not impressed so far. Chat room, not impressed. Try harder.
Aww.
So what's a D&D equivalent of a dad joke? Would that be like a grognard joke?
I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Sure.
I feel like some of those were.
All right. Yeah. Cool. So let's do an announcement real fast. So we announced today as a company, Encoded Designs, that we are going to be publishing the Streets of Avalon. So the Streets of Avalon are Brett B from Gaming and BS, the aforementioned Gaming and BS, his low fantasy city setting. It's got lamplighters, guilds and noble house intrigue, and small stories that play into larger situations. The product itself will mostly be system neutral, but has some support for 5th edition in the appendix for running investigative games in 5th edition. In the near future, I will be talking more about what this book will contain. And the current plan is to kickstart the product this fall. We might need to move it back to the beginning of next year, mostly due to tax purposes.
I actually, as an aside, I had dinner with Jason Pitt last night on his way to Gen Con. And we could run the Kickstarter in December.
Into January?
Well, we can end it in December. We could run it November, partway into December. The money just has to not be in the bank account.
Yeah.
So that 2 weeks that it takes for the money to process is like the way that we could avoid having to pay the taxes.
I mean, it would
run it earlier.
It would be really cool if we could run it in the back end of September and October. I don't think it's possible, but it'd be really cool if we could.
A little nervous about that, but yeah. Anyway, oh, by the way, listeners, quick note. Good news, bad news, good news. Bad news, we're not going to Gen Con.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to be at Gen Con.
Right, because we went to Origins, so sorry.
I mean, if we were going to Gen Con, we'd be doing this episode from a bed somewhere.
Yes.
Because 1 year ago, about this time, we were in a bed.
Yeah. So bad news is that we won't be going to Gen Con. Good news means that next week we will not be doing a Gen Con recap episode where we don't actually write anything and just ramble for an hour. We'll actually have a fully structured show.
Correct.
Unless you want to just do a made-up Gen Con, recap.
I mean, I'm sure we'll be doing some reports from Gen Con of what the cool stuff that came out from there. And so I'm sure I'll be trolling the G Plus feeds for news and whatnot the entire weekend since I'm not going to be there.
Correct. So anyway, that's
oh, Rob, you got me. Damn it.
Winner, chicken dinner. Rob got it.
You win, Rob. That one was, see, that's funny, right? And the winner was, you don't need a Gen Con episode to do, you don't need a Gen Con to do an episode from bed, just saying.
How about a QCC in bed episode?
Oh, that was good. Sorry. Look at Rob, he's like, yes! Damn it, you win. It wasn't even like we've been on the air for 15 minutes. Yes. I failed in 15 minutes.
All right, now chat room, settle down.
All right.
Settle down, chat room.
Let's do an ad. Now that I'm disappointed. If the ad will show up.
Oh, latency.
Phil, I don't really feel so great.
Seems oddly familiar. Well, stay away from me anyway. I can't get sick because if I go down, everybody else in my family goes down.
That's true. I mean, but still, man, I was in the desert. I'll try to keep away from you. It was the damnedest thing.
Yeah. There are no deserts around here, so where were you exactly?
It's the desert that I was in last week. I went back again.
Oh, yeah, that place.
Yeah,
right, okay.
In the house, it sent me back there again.
You really need to stay out of that corner of the house.
I mean, I was in a different corner of the house. The house just wanted me to go there.
Okay.
But anyways, I was walking across this desert. It's called the Mirrored Steppes once again, and I found these ruins. Same ruins. They said the same traps. It was like a fever dream this time, though. There was guardians. There was unspeakable horrors.
All right. Was Bagthulhu there this time?
No, but there might have been like a dragon back there. We'll get to that later. Along with that, I did find some like treasure hunters and some bandits and some other guardians.
So this time, did you knowing that you were here, did you actually fight them this time?
What do you think?
No.
Of course not. Look at me. How am I supposed to fight? I'm not really a fighter.
You could throw a chair at them.
Dude, it's not. I could throw a chair at them. But it's not like I'm Brett B. I don't have like a couple of black belts.
No, that's true. Next time, dream about Brett B being with you.
Exactly, that'll work.
Yeah.
So while I was there, the place started messing with my mind. It made me a little crazy, maybe a little bit ill, maybe a little bit of both. So that's
like a little deja vu.
A little deja vu too. Yeah.
So how did you eventually get out of there, man?
Well, I ran into this lion once again. It asked me different questions, though. I mean, it asked me about the Tomb Guardians and what I had done, and it asked me about the podcast, which was really weird. But then it asked me about the Netherese ruins, and I didn't answer them correctly, so I unleashed a plague once again.
I swear to God, stop releasing plagues.
I mean, I must have TPK'd the first time, which is why I went back again for seconds.
Excellent. You have a really mean GM.
I know, right?
So how did you get out this time?
Well, this time instead of the green demon head, I just whistled and Bagthulhu came, devoured me, and I popped up back here.
Excellent. Very convenient.
Yeah. In reality, we're just doing another ad for the Lions Vault.
We are. And once again, we're being ever so clever.
We're trying to be anyways. So the Lions Vault, it's very neat. It's the third part of the Fate of the Forebears Adventure Path by C2 Gaming. You can get it in print and digital.
Nice. What about if you want to play it on virtual tabletop?
Absolutely. And the assets are fantastic. There are maps, there are tokens with fully fleshed out stats in the tokens. Everything's compatible with Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, and any other virtual tabletop that exists.
Nice. Is it for a specific game?
Yeah, you can. It's definitely for Pathfinder and 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Nice. And what about levels? Is it low level, high level, mid level?
Mid level. This is for 9 through 11. But if you grab parts 1 and 2, you can play up to that point.
Sweet.
So it's like an adventure path.
And what about where is this on Kickstarter right now?
Yes, it is. It currently is. There's as of this recording, there's 16 days left. It's a little over halfway funded. Just go and search for Lions Vault on Kickstarter, or you can click on the link in the show notes.
We're getting a whole bunch of reports about static coming through the feed.
Interesting. That's weird.
We don't hear it here.
Yeah, we don't hear any weird static, so I don't know why that's doing that.
But thank you for alerting us, chat room.
I'll see what I can do about fixing that.
Okay.
And as I do that, you should move on to the next thing, which I'll do this. Get ready.
Workshop, where we make better games, where we play better shit, damn it. Play games, it's awesome. Yep, I'm going to take a drink real quick.
It's all you, man.
All right. This topic was on the pin list, and it caught our eye because it's something that have been happening over the last few weeks. In fact, both of our ongoing Sunday games have had player editions. In Blades, we added both Chris and myself at different times, and in our Mask game, we added Sean and myself at different times. So tonight, we're going to talk about how to add players to an existing game, the benefits, the challenges, and how to give some advice on dealing with both.
Yeah.
So, Phil, what do we need to know about adding players?
Yeah, all right. So, adding players, man. So, just for setting our parameters for discussion tonight, we're talking about when a group is already playing a game, and they are, and by playing a game, I'm assuming this is campaign style, but it really could be just episodic. It could just be an episodic, one shot, over and over one shot. But
sure.
Let's go with campaigns for tonight. And you've now decided to add someone into the group. So there's a number of reasons why you might want to do this to your game. So first of all, you could have made a new friend. Somebody might have returned to the area. So maybe you had somebody that used to play in your group and they've come back. Like eventually when Drew Smith comes back and moves in with us. It's okay. Just Drew, come back. Sometimes you do it because the game plays better with more people. That is definitely, we'll talk about that in a little bit. That's definitely one of many reasons why we asked you to jump in on Masks. Not the only reason. Sometimes things are a bit stale. Like you've been playing with the same group for a while and you want it to liven up a bit.
Sure.
So now the person who's coming in could be coming in permanently or temporarily. So if they're coming in temporarily, they're going to, probably going to be in for one or more sessions.
Yeah.
Doubtful they're going to be in for less than that, but they're going to come in and then maybe they're here for the summer. I've had campaigns where I had friends come back from college and they would jump in and play through until semester started and they'd leave again.
I played in a campaign where there's this one guy who could only show up once in a while. We just knew that it was his deal. So he'd have a character that would be off doing other things, and when he could play, he'd just show up.
Yeah, just pop right in.
Yeah.
And then if you're permanent, then it's just that, we want somebody to come in and play and stay in.
Sure.
So yeah. So some other things we're going to assume tonight. So we're going to assume that the person that you bring in general, gets along with the rest of the group. So
it's always we're
not going to talk about personality conflicts and things like that. That's actually worth its own show. And I think maybe in the past we might. Well, honestly, at this point, at 271 episodes, we have done it somewhere. I'm just going to say that. We did it. I'm not going to look. Yeah. So anyway, so we're going to assume that everybody gets along. That we're not talking about group is on board with adding the person. So we're not really going to talk about how to win everybody onto this idea. We're just going to assume that everybody was like, oh yeah, of course, let's have that person play.
Right.
And we're going to assume that your game supports the size of the group you're playing.
Yes.
Because that's not always true, and your mileage may vary if you start adding more people than a game should support.
Sometimes it's the people too, like whether or not they're comfortable gaming with a big group or a smaller group.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you get into one of those like 12-person like AD&D games.
Ooh.
Like, it's not necessarily wrong
Right.
because you can totally play it that
Sure.
big, but oof,
It's a different game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So with those assumptions, let's now talk about like what's cool about adding new players to a game.
Well, it can have a lot of benefits and can make the group stronger as well as make the game more interesting and exciting. So let's take a few minutes and talk about why you might want to invite someone new to your current game.
Yeah. So first of all, a new person could bring in a new role into
Sure.
the game. So having that person in the new role means that it's a role that we previously haven't had that's now opened up. So, for instance, our new player comes in and decides to be the cleric, and we no longer have to have our cleric on a rope.
Right.
Like that's that can be awesome.
The unlimited pool of healing potions.
Yeah, exactly. The rod that just always has some amount of healing. Yeah.
Right.
So this has a number of benefits. So first of all, it gives access to new abilities for the group.
Sure.
Now the group can turn undead.
Yeah.
And they can heal. It also opens up new storylines based on the character and their role. So now, if our cleric is a cleric of the Queen of Hoarfrost and Woe, my personal favorite deity. Now we can have stories about the Church of the Church of Hoarfrost and Woe, the
Right.
Queen of Hoarfrost and Woe. Like we have an on ramp into those stories.
Yeah.
What's another reason why we'd want to add someone?
Well, a new person can bring new ideas to the group. Everybody, especially if we're playing with the same group of people for a while, they're going to have a certain play style, and they're going to have a comfort zone. You bring someone new in there, they might bring something new to the table that you didn't really even think about before. Brings a new dynamic.
I remember that I did that for your groups. Like everything was different after
everything
that.
was. We're going to talk about that. That is definitely a thing we're going to talk about.
They have a different perspective, different play styles, and then those things merge into the group, and the group can take on some of these traits.
Yeah.
The reverse could be true, and the new players will also take on some of the ideas and traits of the group. In a perfect world.
Yeah. I mean, there's usually some transference, some normalization
Sure.
of the group.
Yeah.
The other cool thing is more interactions. So adding another character to the group increases the number of character-to-character interactions. And the reason this is important is so depending on the game you're playing, character-to-character interactions can be important. I'll cite two games as an example. Masks for certain.
Yeah.
Because we've all played Masks.
Yep.
And Monster Hearts.
Haven't played Monster Hearts.
Yeah, I haven't
unfortunately.
played it, but you often, there's a lot of character-to-character interactions that
Sure.
are occurring in the game. Now, I'm going to break out one of the most boring things from project management, but I am going to show you that mathematically, why adding you and then Sean to Masks was such a good idea.
Okay.
All right, so
I dare you to.
yeah. So in project management, we talk about a thing about communication channels. Now, the context of it in project management is that there is this idea that when something goes slow, we should just add more people to the project. And what we find out from that scientifically is that the more people you add to the project, actually the slower it goes because more people have to talk to each other. So there's a formula that says the number of communication channels in a group is equal to n times n minus 1 divided by 2. Okay? In our Masks game, when Chris started the game, it was Nikki, Bob, and I.
Okay.
So that's 3. And that means that there's 3 communication channels.
Sure.
Right? Nikki talks to Bob. Nikki talks to Phil. That's it. And then, and then Phil talks to, Bob, Nikki. It's a triangle.
Right.
Okay. When we added you to the game, we went up to 4 players, and now there's 6 communication channels.
Right.
And then when we added Sean to the game, we went to 5, and now we have 10 communication channels. So in a game where personal interactions are important, by going up to 5 players, we actually increased the variety of communications we could have.
That displayed itself extremely well in the last session, I thought.
Yeah, it's actually working out great.
Yeah.
Like you can see immediately now that like I can talk to you, or now you can talk to Sean, and like it's able to move around more.
Yeah. That game thrives in that too.
Exactly. Yeah, I think Masks is very much a game that should put a label on it that says you should play this with 4 people or more.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, you can play it with 3. It is not. It's not as much. It's not quite as much fun.
Well, given the amount of drama that the system is, that the system encourages, you can get 2-on-1 pileups a lot.
Yep.
Do you know what I really like about Masks?
What's that?
Is as a game master, I don't really have to do as much as I thought I did.
No.
Right?
I just set up situations, and often, even when you guys make dice rolls, I'm actually not picking a thing. I actually give you a choice, and then maybe I pick a thing.
It's really like what? It's 20 minutes of superhero fighting and 30 minutes of us teenage angsty yelling at each other about superhero fighting.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is fantastic. I can't say that in a bad way. Like, I love the stuff that happens and the arguments that happen afterwards.
It's oddly cathartic.
Yeah. It's kind of fun to, as a side note, it's kind of fun to just play a teenager with like Solar has like 0 impulse control because he's partially invulnerable.
Sure.
And so, Solar does some dumb stuff because, it's because he's a teenager and can fly through buildings. So
likewise, Chibo, she's just a wrecking ball.
Oh my God, please tell everyone what Chibo stands for. I just learned it in the last game and I thought it was just about the coolest thing.
Oh, it's a shorthand for GBOGH, go big or go home.
That's right. I love it.
I looked up hashtags on the internet. I'm like, oh, it works.
That's
Chibo.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So by adding new people, we can open up interactions within a game, and so very important for social games.
There's also a chance to play with friends and make a new friend. Gaming is also a bonding exercise. Mm-hmm. Sharing a game with someone is a great way to become better friends with them. In some cases, this is the only way you may see someone. For instance, I don't get to hang out with Tony outside of gaming, so gaming is how I stay connected with him.
Yeah, clearly I wrote that when Chris was still going to do this part, but you also only see Tony in the course of a game.
The last time I saw Tony was at QCC last year.
Yeah, and then Blades.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. Honestly, Chris and I knew you, right. And then it was like, well, now we're going to go play Swords together on Sunday mornings.
Sure.
And then on the days we didn't play Swords, we all just hung out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now we're all friends. And then, we were like, now you should just play all of our games.
Works for me.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. All right. But adding new players is not always a bed of roses. So while it's a lot of fun, it can create challenges within your gaming group. And adding a person's like dropping a pebble into a pond. It creates a certain amount of waves. Some of these waves include
getting the player acclimated to the game. Depending on how long you've been playing the game and the player's familiarity with it, it'll determine how much disruption adding to the game will be. There are some factors to consider. Rule system, which one, what version, and how old is it? The complexity of the system determines the system mastery and the number of house rules. I don't think we ran into the house rule problem.
Yeah,
luckily.
I don't do a lot of house rules, but if you're playing OSR, because as you know, I've been kind of delving into this, and I've been now listening to both Hobbs and Spellburn.
Have you?
Yeah, a little bit. But there are a lot of OSR games come up with house rules, and so if you're coming into the game for the first time, and let's say you even know, I've played DCC before, or whatever, but maybe you've never played with Fleeting Luck, which is I think it's grown beyond house rule.
Okay.
But it's it's a Benny-like system for DCC.
Okay.
There are other ones, but if you haven't played that before, that's a thing you have to adjust to.
Sure.
And if you've never played, let's say, for instance, let's take somebody who's played predominantly story games, and you've joined a new group that's playing Champions. There's going to be a learning curve
absolutely.
where you're just like, I didn't even know I had this many D6. Right. So it's definitely it can.
I have to do math now.
Right? Is there not a sheet that does this? Right.
What?
Yeah. The next challenge with a new player is getting them caught up with what's actually going on. So when somebody joins a game, if the game's been in progress for a while, you now have to kind of data dump to people what's been happening in the campaign. Right. And at one level, you've got to just cover the major NPCs, locations, and things like that. But then you also have to kind of tell them what happened. And if you've ever sat and listened to somebody try to tell you about their campaign,
it's
like,
can I have the Cliff Notes version of that?
It's really like, I think in general as gamers, we get excited and we don't do a great job. We start telling you stories about, I've done it to people. I've had it done to me where somebody's telling me about their campaign and then they're like, wait. Okay. And then there was this guy, but he was like back in the first adventure and we like totally forgot about him. Yeah. Like, and
it's definition of you had to be there story.
Yeah. And so it's really hard sometimes to get people up to speed. And so if you have like a newer game, it's okay. If you've had a really established game, that can be really daunting. Some other factors to consider. Are you playing an established setting or are you playing a homebrew? Because if we're playing Ebron,
right,
there's a certain amount of knowledge that either I don't have to tell you because I could be like, go read the Ebron book,
right,
or you're like, I totally dig Ebron, I love it, But if we're playing like, L Hall, my homebrew, like you have no hope of knowing anything about what's going on in that game. Like you just have to listen to me, like spew it all forth. We talked about how long the game's been going on, and then where we are in terms of arcs. So if we're at the end of an arc, I don't really need to catch you up too much because this arc's going to end,
right?
And then you'll come in on the new arc, and we just only have to tell you a few important things that the new arc has to do with the old one.
The way you brought me into Masks was you had an arc that just ended,
yes,
and I didn't. My character had no idea what was going on, and that actually worked perfectly.
Yeah, it was great because we had kind of concluded that arc. Nikki and I had some stuff that we had to resolve.
Still do.
Yeah, still do. We brought you in, and actually Chris did, I think, and it worked. I think one, it worked for two reasons. One, Chris is excellent GM,
obviously,
and two, we were playing a comic book game.
Yeah.
So Chris did this really nice non-linear story where we started with the stuff that happened between Nikki and I. We didn't even we left that behind and we jumped forward and we started bringing you in. And then every now and then Chris would take a pause and go back and and open up a scene from what happened before.
Sure.
And Nikki and I would go a little bit further on that and then he'd jump forward again.
Right.
Like it was a really good job. It was like super comic book like.
It was very much a 0.1 issue.
Yeah, it was, but it was so good. And it allowed us, because it was a new arc, we only had to kind of tell you that, Bob's previous character Morph got killed.
Yeah, and it made them made the group dynamic as far as like meshing the characters together a lot more organic.
Yeah, and I mean, if we had to tell you the whole story of how Morph got killed, like you'd have just been looking at us like, okay, now, who was Teslason again? Like, which guy was the giant robot? Yeah. Like, it was easier to be like, Bob died.
Sure. Well, my character wouldn't know anyway.
Right, exactly.
So it worked out.
Yeah, so this is really good. All right, so what's another challenge when we bring on a new player?
Niche protection. Having new players is great until they want to play the same class that you do. That's well, it's probably more concerned with like D&D, well, class-based games, but it's any system. If you're playing a character that does the same exact role, then that's going to be a problem.
I mean, I know people argue that there shouldn't be niche protection, but I actually think there should be niche protection in games.
It's hard. It's hard not to, especially. It depends, mechanically how it works, but especially if you go with the PBTA games, that's what we've been playing the most of lately. Playbooks that's set up like you can only one playbook at a time. They're all unique, which is awesome.
Yep. I actually think that's probably one of the best forms of niche protection is that just simply there's only one hard holder in this game. There's only one fighter in this Dungeon World game.
Yeah. Exactly. Making sure the new player has a niche in the game and that everyone who had one still has one can also be a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, especially if somebody comes in and it's like, well, somebody new comes into our game and is like, well, I pretty much only play barbarians. Like, I'm going to be like, Like, okay.
So I'm just going to play a fighter and take some moves from the barbarian playbook. Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well,
There are factors to consider. Are there classes or roles in the rules? And are there specific roles in this setting?
yeah, I mean, I think if they're classes, it's a little more obvious. Like,
Sure.
you know, hey, don't play another wizard. Like,
Yeah.
we have one.
Right.
But if you don't have it, if it's like a point build game and somebody's concept just lands like super close to
Right.
somebody else's, like, I think those are almost the worst cases, is that
Yeah.
somebody just like shows up and they're like, well, I totally want to play like a stealthy fighter thief type character, and the guy who always plays the ninjas like pulling his hair out, like that's my shtick. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think that's a challenge. I also think it's a challenge, like you said, if the setting's involved. Like sometimes the
Yes.
setting has certain things that people do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Another challenge is you're going to disrupt the party dynamic, and by party I mean the characters.
Yeah.
So your existing group has a flow and style to them. They have a way of doing things.
Yeah.
When you add in that new player, that flow gets disrupted, and hopefully, if things go well, that new person integrates over time.
Yeah.
But it's going to take some new time and effort, and the group has to kind of be patient to understand that, like, this new player is going to, like, our flow is going to be disrupted.
Yeah.
And the things we need to think about are we playing with strangers or friends?
Sure.
Because I've done that where a long time ago we had a third edition game, and Bob brought, we wanted another player, and Bob knew this guy from work, and he brought this guy from work, and none of us else knew him. And the short part of it is it didn't work out. And it was pretty obvious pretty quickly it wasn't going to work out. And we had to hang on for a few episodes till he failed to integrate and just kind of popped back out. Another thing to consider is has the person played an RPG before?
Yeah.
Because if they haven't, you're really now dealing with two things, which is you're not only teaching them the game to play, but you're teaching them how to role play.
Yes. Which some people just take to it naturally. There's a good side to that, though. They look at people will, especially with like a D&D type game or like something that's like mechanically intensive. They have a certain way of playing, and they have a certain way of solving problems. New person comes to the table and says, "Hey, why don't I do something different?"
Yeah, absolutely. Which is great because that falls back to our new ideas thing.
Sure.
But then it also at the same time, in terms of disrupting the party dynamic, the rest of the players might be like, "That's not how we do it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the last part, which we did say in the definition that we weren't going to harp on too much, but personality compatibility.
Yes.
Like, does this person get it? Like, is this person? How do I say this without sounding wrong? Are they good? Do they fit in with the rest of the group? Like, if the rest of the group is easygoing, are they easygoing?
Right.
You know, because it's harder if the rest of the group is like super casual, but this player is like, all this player's ever, like, all right, here's the example. This is my fictitious example.
Sure.
Like, our group is fairly easygoing.
Yeah.
But if we brought in somebody who basically just played like competition 40K,
Right.
like, you know, just tournament 40K, and we brought him in, like, they're gonna have like a bit of a shock. Like, why are you guys so relaxed? Like, aren't you trying to get the objective? You know, like why aren't we trying to win? Like, yeah, well, you know, because sometimes we stop and tell a funny story, and then we get back to role playing.
Exactly.
Like,
it's like, well, it's not about winning. What?
Because that person sitting at the end of the table, it's called the game master or the dungeon master, can kill you whenever they feel like.
right. Yeah. So personality compatibility definitely is a thing. And while we did take it off the table for the definition, this is the place where it kind of comes into play.
Yeah, bears mentioning.
What else?
There's also spotlight balance. Adding more people to a game means that the spotlight is going to get spread out more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which everyone will need their spotlight time, and now there are more characters to cover in each session, which could add on to the time that a game takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
New characters are going to want spotlight time, while existing characters may become losing some. I could definitely see that. That's definitely a problem. There are factors considered are there mechanisms that govern spotlight time? Is it built into the game?
Yeah.
And which a lot of games might not have it necessarily.
Yeah, so then it falls to the game master to kind of make sure that gets doled out.
Right. How collaborative is the tone of the game? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're all playing thieves who don't necessarily trust each other.
Well, yeah. I mean, what if you're playing Urban Shadows?
Well,
exactly.
There's a different kind of collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Like some collaboration is we're a party of adventurers going into a dungeon, right? And some collaboration is how we're going to screw each other over. So that we can collaborate to figure out how we're going to do that. Because
It's an interesting definition of collaboration, but
well, I mean, it's not collaborative on the character level; it's collaborative on the player level. You get into the level discussion
yes,
then
that's good. Yeah,
right?
I'm with you
Like,
on that.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sure.
Continue on. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's right. And how collaborative is the old group?
Yeah, I mean, Chris actually experienced this when Chris joined my group. There were some kind of non-collaborative elements. And
Yeah, it was odd, right? There was not even just some non-collaborative elements, but I felt like there were some aggressively angry elements of that group from player to player, and also in the way in play style.
yeah.
Was it like for real, or is it like, did they just have a dynamic you didn't understand?
No, it was
No,
an in-game. It was
it-
an in-game problem.
It was some of it was real life emotional things or things from past that just never really got resolved.
Oh, that's not good.
And there was I honestly felt there was some bullying going on at the table
Okay,
that I
well,
didn't approve of or appreciate.
Yep.
And then there was just some in-character playstyle things
Yep.
that not everybody was at the table for the same reason or with the same wanting the same kind of game.
Okay.
Like when I was running, I really picked up on it when we were playing Numenera. And then once I got to start running Dungeon World for 2 people, I could sort of build the thing that I wanted, the group that I wanted to, and build the play culture that I wanted to around the table.
We wound up that group actually kind of splintered. And so then we kept a chunk of it, and Chris, then we added on people.
Okay.
And kind of shaped what that game was going to be and what that group was going to be.
Yeah. And those people who were playing the game before, there's nothing. I mean, I was very disappointed in the fact that there was a personal problem that people just couldn't get over. Like, that made me sad.
Yeah.
But the play style thing was like, there was nothing wrong with the kind of games that some of the other people wanted to play. Like,
Right.
I actually like playing those kind of games too. But when you have 4 people and like, I feel like half the group had one idea of what they wanted and half the group had the other idea.
There was a lot of struggle.
You get in that space where it's hard to make it happen.
Yep. It was a actual real struggle. We can actually talk about that a little bit on the after show. It's
Sure.
actually a really interesting kind of
It
case
is
study.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it was fine. Like the players were fine. Like I actually liked. I played Dungeon Roll with them.
Yeah, like if you stepped out of the game with these people, like it was fine, but like at the table, remember there was some problems.
Maybe it's just that group specifically. If, like, individually the players are fine. It's just you need to split them up.
Oh,
maybe.
they were. I mean, it was a group that I had together for like 15 years. Like it had a little too much history to it.
Okay.
Yeah. And it had a little too much history in our 20s when we were less careful and, good with ourselves.
I'm also super glad that like I love playing games with Phil. I'm glad that every game I play isn't with Phil because
Yeah.
then
course.
that's a pleasure to play with Phil then because
Right.
you have it. It's a different perspective.
Right. I mean, I'm stuck playing with Chris most of the time, but I'm getting over. I just get over it.
You play more games than that.
Just a couple. All right. Last thing that can be a problem in this is encounter bloat. So now that you've added more characters to the party, now the party has more firepower, which means that you kind of need to take this into account when you are building out your encounters, especially if you're playing in a game that has encounter balance.
Yeah.
Now, if you're playing in like something super OSR, you didn't take account of this in the first place, so you're not worried about it now. But if you're playing a 3.5 Pathfinder or something like that, you now have to consider this.
Yeah, that becomes a math equation.
Yeah, it literally is a math
Yes.
equation. Only one math equation per episode, so we won't
Fair
delve
enough.
into it any deeper. But as you increase the difficulty and the number of combatants, combat encounters start to get longer,
Absolutely. Yeah.
especially in D20. So
Yeah.
if you've now added your 6th person to the group, and you've also had to add like a second big bad because you now have 6 people in the group, your time is going to stretch out for fights and things like that. So the things to consider for this is, again, does the game have an encounter balance built into it? Things like Dungeon World and then OSR games do not, but Pathfinder and things like that do. And how complex are the combats to begin with? Because you can have this problem in Savage Worlds, but you can solve it by using mooks.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can just be like, well, just dump 20 more mooks on the table. They're all going to go down in a punch or two, but it'll certainly entertain this, 6-player, this 6-player party.
That is very versatile and accounts for that extremely well.
Yeah, it actually does a really nice job of allowing you to punch more people without the game becoming super heavy in doing so.
Exactly.
Yeah, and still satisfying. There's still something satisfying about punching out mooks.
Of course.
I do like it. All right, so there we are. That's our pros and cons for adding new players to your game. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about advice for how to make it easier to add new players to your existing games. And we'll pick Glenn's brain because we wrote this and we didn't really actually do all this stuff with Glenn. So we'll see which parts we actually did well, and then we'll see which parts we should have done.
Okay.
We're going to do an ad for Wayward Masquerade. We're going to keep going on with our Bagthulhu haiku contest. It's going on throughout the month of August. Please send your haikus in, and if they're related to Bagthulhu, you're going to get bonus points. You also get bonus points for mythos references, nihilism, cosmic horror, personal horror, and humor. There's no way you can fill it into one haiku, so do the best you can. Also, put these things on the Facebook group, on the G Plus community. Heck, if you want to tweet one at me with hashtag Bagthulhu, that'll work too. I love that stuff. Here are a couple of them. I've been leaving the names off these on purpose. So here we go. Do you want me to do them both, or you want to do one of them?
Can you do them both?
Sure. Dice scatter in fear. Players refuse to see. Hark! Bagthulhu is near. That's a pretty good one, actually.
That's actually really good.
It's a really good one. Second one. That might be the front runner at the moment. Here's the second one. Dagon rules the waves. Dicing madness with Hastur. Bagthulhu trophy. That's actually a good one, too, because there's a Dagon and a Hastur reference in it, and a Bagthulhu reference at the same time. I mean, those are two really strong entries right there.
That first one, anywhere where you can get the word hark.
Right?
Right. I like that. Hark.
So these haikus brought to you by Wayward Masquerade, which, Phil, by the way, there's a new bag coming from Wayward Masquerade.
Of course there is. We've been teasing about it for like 3 weeks.
I know. It's been fun dancing around what the bag was going to be. I mean, it could be anything from...
No, it's a dragon.
I didn't even tell you. How'd you know?
I know it's a dragon.
Chris, it was pretty obvious. You made a Mother of Dragons joke last week.
I mean, that's a good point. So yeah, there's a dragon dice bag coming, and dragons which can adhere to your wrist. There's like a dragon, like the little snap wrist things.
Awesome.
Oh, come on, snap bracelet.
Snap bracelet with a dragon on it.
Sweet.
Oh, I know, right? I saw them. I think we're getting one. I think Bridget's sending one.
I'm just going to ask, does Send to know what a snap bracelet is, or do I have to? I don't want to presume this time. I'll just ask.
So check it. You can see the prototypes for them in the G Plus community. I put a poll up there because Bridget asked me to, because she's got a Kickstarter beta community that you can go and join and put in your input for what kind of bag colors you think should exist, because she's doing that right now.
Oh, I clicked.
Yep.
What did you vote for?
I liked the orange and the black one.
Oh, I did.
Everybody's voting for the black and the green.
Oh, I voted the orange and red. I liked the orange.
Did you orange and red?
Yeah.
Those are good one too. Like most of the votes right now are for the black and the green, or the green and the green.
See, I figured the black and the green was all. Bagthulhu has
it looks
a lot
like
of those
Bagthulhu,
colors.
so
yeah.
I mean,
good for Bridget because it kind of she's probably got that fabric laying around.
Yeah, probably.
But it doesn't have to buy
so
more.
The poll's there. You can go to the Kickstarter beta page if you want to. Just look up Wayward Masquerade, join it. Bridget will let you in. She's in the community now too, so you can just talk right to her.
Oh, sweet!
Yeah, she joined the community today, and we'll keep you updated as we go on with these dragon bags. I'm looking very much forward to it.
Excellent.
All right, let's get into the chat room for life. So I asked the chat room while you guys were chatting about their best and worst bringing in new player stories.
Oh, sweet.
So I have a few for you. So I left the names off. So here we go. Bringing in someone who volunteered his nice big house for us to play in, then that person became a complete troll freak, wanted to start running games by his ever-changing railroad rules.
That's like that is literally a Happy Jack's horror story.
I've
Right?
actually been
Totally.
there. It's not cool.
It's terrible. Bad.
Yep.
All right, another one. Bringing in a guy I'd just broken up with to an ongoing campaign he dropped out of and then wanted back in.
Oh, I know who that is.
Yeah,
Actually,
that one's easy.
that story's actually been told on another podcast.
She might have told that story in the world. Yeah. Here's one. Had a regular group at a university club. New player joins. Was running a module. I had a private moment with another player. Stepped out of the room to play that out. This new player immediately gets up, jumps into my chair behind the GM screen, and starts flipping through my notes like he won the lottery. He starts reading the shit out loud to the other players, my regular group. They were like, "What the fuck?" And he was totally confused why what he was doing was not good.
Wow.
Why would you do that?
I mean, I mean, in 6th grade,
and then this
wait, in
okay.
6th grade, if that happened, I would expect that. Like when I was in D&D club, like in 7th grade, if I had gotten up and left my notes there, I would have expected one of my friends to read it. But this says university club, like university meaning college.
Yeah.
Like no, that's bad.
The best part about this story, I didn't put it in there. The person who did this, the game master, the person who wrote this, didn't find out about it until towards the end of the campaign.
Oh man,
when he changed something and the guy called him on it.
perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's hilarious,
That's awesome.
Right? Oh, it's funny.
Man, that's great.
Hey, the Weregator's in the chat room. What's
Welcome, Weregator.
up? Eric Bonts. Okay, here's another one. These are great stories. So, brought in someone's friend who thought that triggering people's X card issues, we didn't know about that back then, and undermining player actions was a fun playstyle. I mean, we can just shoot that person. I mean, metaphorically. Maybe not metaphorically.
That's some abusive behavior right there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, who wants to play with that person? Jesus. Here's another one. Early on, I gamed with a friend, Phil knows Dan Carney, whose style was to throw a monkey and wrench into the works whenever he could. That kind of stunk for a bit, but in time we turned it around and became one of my best players and a key part of my 7-year Masquerade the Vampire
Let me just
campaign.
tell you that this guy, I mean, I'm actually good friends with him now too, but Craig and I worked at this grocery store. And so when this guy started, he was like this super brown noser and started making Craig and I look bad because like the guy was working like way harder than the two of us. We had to take him in the back and have a talk with him. Like we took him in the back of the warehouse and we're like, look, man, you're like killing it for us. Like we've been here for a couple of years. You got to like slow down. Like we're not looking to work this hard anymore.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. That was kind of his personality. He's actually, that guy Dan's a really interesting character. I could tell some stories. Anyway.
Here's a couple of best ones.
Yeah.
I added a friend who was a war gamer but never played role-playing games. In the game, she was what we would now call a rainmaker, but also strove to create situations for the other players to implement their character and role-playing hooks. She was really good at seeing the hooks, and I tossed out as a GM and guiding the characters to them.
Oh, it's fantastic. That's even better than just that's even better than a rainmaker. I don't know if there's a term, somebody who guides you to a hook.
That's the
that's like a Pathfinder or something.
That's the kind of role that I try to play in games when I'm playing as a character.
I know you do a very good job of it.
Because it's more fun for me. Like that's us making stories together, right? Yeah. And getting involved in other people's stories at that point.
Well, and it's even better just to be like, oh, hey, you wanted to go do this thing. Just suddenly steering somebody into the scene.
So here's a good one. 2 high school kids show up to the friendly local gaming store, and I'm running D&D encounters. They are there to buy some comics and notice the D&D 4e books and start flipping through them. I pause the game and walk over and ask them if they want to try it out. They protest a bit, but I persist. I hand them each a pre-gen and tell them they don't have to take part if they aren't comfortable, but sit down and enjoy it. It only took maybe 2 scenes for them to be playing along. They said it was the most fun experience ever.
That's awesome.
They compared it to video games and said that was much cooler than Elder Scrolls, and they thanked me profusely, and I helped them pick out core books. That was during the Essentials time period.
Well, good. At least that's not as scary when you have to buy the Essentials book.
Yeah. It was fun to talk about the bad ones, but I really enjoy the good ones too.
No, it's good. It's nice to actually have moments where people have, brought in people and it's actually worked out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super well. I mean, I will say that bringing Chris in was one of the best things that ever happened to me gaming wise. Like, I mean, not only gaming wise, but we wouldn't have a company, a podcast.
Well, I had a podcast.
I didn't.
No, you didn't.
I had a blog.
I didn't have a podcast network.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff happened from honestly, I was sitting around with somebody one day and was like, oh, we should totally play a game with Chris. Actually, I believe it was, you should totally play a game with Chris and Mark, but Mark was busy.
Yeah, that's true.
He had a baby. He couldn't, yeah. Anyway, so let's get back into it.
Back to Glenn. I'm going to go sit back in the chat room now and not pay attention to what's going on.
All right. Catching new players up. So if we're going to bring a new player in, the first thing to do is to get them up to speed and so that they can get playing. We need to do this on 4 layers of the game. Players, at this level, we need to make sure that our new player knows the people they're playing with. Does this person know the rest of the group? If not, make some time for them to get to know each other before jumping into the game. When I was running games, like trying to find players, I'd always try to meet them ahead of time at like Panera or like a coffee shop or something. Just to, first of all, make sure that kind of like, if it's somebody that I don't know.
Right.
And also, I want to make sure you're not, a little off before I invite you to my house.
Yes, exactly.
But it is just a nice, icebreaker. Just get everybody used to each other.
I like having a pregame dinner. That's a thing I like to do. Like I figure if we're all sitting around having dinner, it's a time to kind of like BS and
sure
stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, at the game level, we need the new player to understand the game that they're playing. So do they already know the system? So maybe this is somebody who's like, oh, I've been playing D&D for years, and come join our D&D game. If not, we need to kind of get them in the direction of a book or a PDF. Like, okay, well, we're gonna teach you some stuff, but you probably should look at the book anyway.
Right.
You might want to have some one-on-one time to teach them some rules, depending on how heavy the game is. I got to be honest, I don't play too many games where I need to do that anymore. I mean, it's like, here's your 2d6, just roll when I tell you to roll.
Yeah.
You'll be good. So that's not too bad. And you might want to give them some cheat sheets. Now, honestly, I would have already made my cheat sheets for me, so it's just a matter of making sure they have some too.
I mean, a lot of games these days, not just story-based ones, are built in that model of, they don't have a lot of things that you need to learn like up front, and they have cheat sheets already built in, so they're like designed to make the game experience easier for everybody.
Absolutely.
Story. Here we need to make sure the character understands the ongoing story of the game. Some will argue that they should know their character first, but not necessarily.
I mean, I think it's easier if you know what's going on before you decide to make a character.
Oh yeah, for sure. You want the character to fit in well to the existing story and setting, so that they know that first. When you recount the story, try to make it not too confusing. Go slow. Pause to explain important elements. Be as chronological as possible, and stick to the highlights.
Oh God, it's so hard.
Not to go into a gamer story.
I feel. You know what? All right, I want to do this at a con. Chris, listen up. We're going to do this at a con. I want to have a session where people come and tell gaming stories to a panel of people who rate the story on like how interesting, coherent, because it's a problem. Gamers have problems telling gamers stories about what happened.
It's true.
Yeah. I do it, and I write a lot of shit, and I still, when I sit and talk to people about what's going on in a game, I still make it convoluted and crazy.
I try to, if I'm doing that, I try to boil it down to its basic elements. And take out the actually what happened in the game.
Right.
And just explain what the general problem is or what was funny about it.
Right. Oh, and then I rolled another 6. And
yeah.
Oh God, I know I'm bad at it. So, and I know people are bad at it, and it's not making fun of people. It's just that it's not it. We get excited.
Yeah, of course.
It's like if you ever had anyone try to tell you about their fiasco game, because you're just like, I don't know what you're telling me, but you seem to think it's very funny. Like,
if everybody's in the fiasco game, you can absolutely. I've talked to friends about fiasco games we had years ago.
Yes.
But if you try to tell it to anybody else,
it's just I think it's an experience that, for some reason, especially in Fiasco, it does not translate outside of the group.
No, let's test the theory, okay?
Yeah,
sure. I was in love with Kevin Lemke's character, who had long, luscious hair and a mullet. And I was in love with the character because he had a mullet. Mm-hmm. Now we're playing the zoo, so all the animals get out and they're running around, they're going crazy and whatnot. And there's a pond with a bunch of chemicals in it. And the only way for Kevin's character to escape is to jump into the pond of chemicals. So he jumps into the pond of chemicals. He pops out, and he's still trying to run away from some wolves. He runs over to me. He's like, help me up. And I reach down, and his hair starts falling out. I'm like, nope.
It's not bad.
See, he laughed.
Yeah.
It was funny.
It was mildly funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't quite know everything else that kind of went on around it, but sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's that kind of thing. I think I just find...
It's because most people know how to tell jokes, because even I'm not very good at delivering jokes, right? I'm not a comedian.
Right.
And the joke is about setup.
Right.
And then punchline, and then being as efficient as possible with that, and also being surprising.
Yeah, It's tough. I think I always laugh because I try to tell people people be like, "Oh, how was your fiasco game?" And the best I do now is it was very funny.
It's the thing with fiasco too. It's like explaining a joke to someone.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
It's like if you have to explain it, well, it's not funny.
Yeah. I mean, I was at last Gen Con. I played a fantastic. I played a fantastic fiasco game. I played the Rock Band one.
Okay.
And it was Senda Nikki, Kevin Lovecraft, and it was just I was deplorable. I was the band promoter, and I was an awful human being.
As you should be as a band promoter.
Yeah, a band promoter of 2 aging teenage pop stars.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was hilarious, and I can't tell you about the rest of it, but I was awful and it was funny. Okay. Finally, getting back to this, the character level. Now, we've already conveyed the story. Now's the time to get them to actually make their character. And depending on your level of system mastery, depending on their level of system mastery, you may need to guide them through the character creation process.
Absolutely.
If we're talking about something like a Pathfinder, like say like a 12th level Pathfinder, you might want to Sherpa them through picking feats and stuff like that. So it's super important to have them be clear about the character concepts, and it's super important not to be afraid to say no.
Yeah, saying no at this point is extremely important.
Right, because you might have been more lenient when the original group started playing, but when the original group started playing, the campaign wasn't really formed.
Right.
And they helped shape the campaign, and the campaign helped shape them. When you insert that new player now, they need to actually fit. Otherwise, it's even more disruptive. Yep. So this is a case where, and I've seen this, when you add people, they're like, well, you already have an established group. I want to play this thing that's outside the established group. And it's like, no. Like, no, you need, like, you fit here.
Right.
Yeah. So I used to have a really bad problem about not saying no to people's character concepts. And I also had a really bad problem of having campaigns die.
Yeah, because that could, like, a little problem can snowball.
Oof. Yeah, somebody picks up a thing out of a splat book, and like next thing you know, everything doesn't work anymore in the game. Yeah, it's a mess. Okay, so yeah, if players want to push boundaries and be iconoclastic and stuff like that, like resist and like make them. I know it sounds like I'm stifling creativity, but I'm going to talk about creativity with constraints. They can be creative within the box.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so
you could do yes. You could do yes and when the game starts.
Yeah, or no but.
Exactly.
Right. No, but you can have a particle accelerator.
Right.
Okay. So we've made a character and we've got our player up to speed. What do we do with them?
So after we had the player up to speed and the character made, we need to insert them in the game. The best example of this, how not to do this, is in the gamers. You look trustworthy. Would you like to join our noble quest?
What's wrong with that?
Come on. It's funny because it's terrible.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's that thing where it's just like literally like...
You get the PC Halo.
Right. Yeah. It's awful.
I guess it depends on the tone of the game, too.
Well, yes. If you're playing something funny, like if you're playing Paranoia, like it's perfectly acceptable to do that. If you're not playing Paranoia, don't do it.
Right.
Yeah. Or Toon.
Bringing in new players should be an important moment of the game for several reasons. First, you want to create time to spotlight the new character and make them feel special. You do this with a solo scene or side quest that is going to run into the main group. That's pretty much how I do it every time. If I'm introducing new players, that's pretty much how I do it every time. Second, you want to have some in-character time for the new character to meet up and get to know the rest of the group. Third, you want to help foster the reason that they're all going to stay together. That's extremely important.
Yeah. I mean, it should be clear for the new character coming in why this group's a group.
Yes.
And two, that should be appeal to them to also want to be part of the group.
Right. Otherwise, they're going to want to do their own thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think I played way too many games in my 20s where people were like, no, sell me on why I want to be part of this group. Well, no, you're here at the table playing. Yes. Just play the damn game. Like, no.
I invited you on a road adventure.
Right. It's more realistic this way. Like, fuck, no. Like, yeah. Oh, God. All right. Let's talk about adjusting play style. So now that you've got the character in and they're starting to play, there's going to be a shift in play style. This will happen. It can be for better or for worse. On the good side, a player who brings positive traits to the game, more cooperation, levity, deeper role playing, whatever is good for your group. When you see it in your game, you need to positively reinforce it and let people know, like, hey, this is good. Like, hey, Chris, thanks for including Bob in that scene. Like, that was a real thing.
Uh-huh.
And actually, this is going back to this was the story I wanted to bring up. When Chris joined my gaming group, he brought more improv and also more cooperation in the group. There was a lot of non-cooperation. It was very standoffish, and Chris kind of came in and was like, yeah, I totally don't play like that. Like, one of those, I'll tell the story. So one of the things we were playing we were playing Dungeon World and you weren't running it.
Yeah, Mike was running it.
Right. And Mike did not like when other people helped out when somebody got stuck coming up with an idea.
Oh, well. Okay.
So he was just like, no, you sit there and come up with an idea.
Oh.
Right. And like if you were stuck, like he would let you like sit.
Right.
And Chris was like, oh, I got an idea. Like, what if this, what if this happened?
That was a huge change in play culture at that table.
It was a huge change in play culture. And it was one where it was like, yes.
You're going to let the game grind to a halt because I don't know, that's...
Well,
games that play like that are games that I get and walk out of.
yes. And yeah, so it was very much this, like, there was this moment where it was like, oh, yeah, we can help each other out. Like, it's okay to tell each other, like, ideas. You don't have to take the idea, but sometimes hearing Chris's idea was like, oh, no, not that. I think I want to do this instead. But it at least, I mean, I learned this from when I was, on the radio in college. Like, silence is death.
Sure.
Right? Like, everything comes to a halt if everything goes quiet. So keep talking. And that's what Chris did. Like, he didn't let the game go silent. And it kept it going. So it was a huge positive shift in play style. And again, it led to actually the group not staying together, but that's okay. On the bad side, a player may bring some of their bad habits into the game. PvP, lying, traitors, selfishness, bossy alpha players, things like that. And you need to head this off before it becomes a problem.
Absolutely.
Don't take the, well, let's see how it shakes out approach. I'm going to tell you, young game masters, if you ever see a problem at the table and you think to yourself, well, let's see how this shakes out in a few sessions, I'm going to tell you, because I'm like Reese from the future sent back in time. It doesn't take care of itself. No. It just festers, infects, and crumbles a campaign. Trust me, I know. I've had it happen so many times.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, I'll give an example. So I brought my brother-in-law, who hadn't played D&D in eons. He hadn't played since like high school. Mm-hmm. I got him into a Pathfinder game that a friend of mine was running.
Okay.
And we were in this ruin. And we were outside of this tower. There was a tower and there was like a spider web. And there was some treasure stuck up in the spider web. And we were like in this high grass in the compound. And the spiders showed up. Large spiders.
Okay.
And so we're fighting the spiders. And we're like, hey. And his name was Mike as well. Like, Mike, what's your thief doing? He's like, well, I'm getting the treasure. And we're like,
oh boy.
But we're all out here like fighting for our lives against these giant spiders that are hiding in the tall grass. And he's like, yeah, but my character's greedy, so I need to get the treasure.
Okay, well then our characters are going to say, get out of here.
Right. Well, and we had to stop and have a talk after the game because we were all like, I mean, first of all, we almost all got killed in that encounter. We finally rallied and started making some progress, but like we almost got taken out because one of our players was not engaged in the combat.
I'm gonna guess that they're the other players were not too happy about that, and was there an argument afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was an argument, and then but we were adults about it, so rather than just yelling, we actually sat down and had a discussion, and we were like, look, that's not how we play. Like, we take down the monsters, then we go get the treasure.
Yeah.
Like, and then like he tried to do but it's my character defense, and we were like, but no, like, no. And ultimately that one didn't work out as well in the long run either. And actually it didn't die in that Pathfinder game. Now that I think about it, that character in a, what was it? Firefly game. Okay. Had a PvP moment and shot or drew, he didn't shoot. He drew his gun on another player.
Oh boy.
And then it became like the end of Reservoir Dogs because everybody drew their guns. Oh, it's so bad. Anyway, don't let bad habits fester. If you see something that is a bad habit in your game, nip it in the bud. Be polite about it. Be candid, though.
Yeah, go with your instincts.
Yeah, just don't trust me when I tell you how. Let's see if it shakes out. Never shakes out. Okay. Yeah, so how you handle these this adjustment is going to determine if the configuration of this group remains stable. In a lot of cases, groups will renormalize, they'll adapt, and play will continue. But sometimes the disruption is going to be too much. The group's going to destabilize, and either the new player's going to leave, someone's going to leave, or the group's going to fall apart.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a lot of times, unfortunately.
Yep, I've seen it plenty of times.
Yeah.
It's really a people dynamic thing. It's just exactly what it is. It's a people dynamic thing, and some groups can form and some groups can't. On a good note, Glenn, I think you're going to make it.
Oh well,
I've sensed in both games so far. I think you're going to make it.
Well, that's good to know.
I'm not so sure about Chris anymore, but I think you're going to be all right.
That's fine. Take my mask stuff and go
yeah,
home.
say he's running one of the games.
Yeah. No, don't do that. I mean, I know what to play if you leave, but don't do that. Undying. Chris won't play vampires.
It's cool. I'll just leave for a while. Take a break.
Anyway.
So
for my own group, play something not vampire-y.
Right.
So in conclusion, hey, new players could be a great addition to the game.
Yeah, they come with pros and cons.
Absolutely. And they always cause a disruption to the game and group.
But managed well, that disruption can be weathered, and new players can become part of the group. And with that, before we close up the workshop, what else is going on in that chat room for life?
Absolutely nothing. They were chatting about other things. The feed went crazy for a few minutes. Sen is still having a hard time with it. A bunch of other people refreshed. It was good. They said that you're the GM from the future.
Yeah. I'm actually that old that I looped back around. I looped back around and have come back in time to tell you.
There's a little bit of discussion going on about how. Here's a good point to raise.
Yeah.
Why is it always going to be on the game master to be the therapist of the group and not on the other players to help make smooth things over? Which I think is complete garbage. I think the players should help too.
I think it is complete garbage. But I will say the one thing to it. First of all, I think anybody in the group can help coach other players through the group. But I did say this in Focal Point, that while it is the responsibility of the group, often these things fall to the GM because a lot of groups traditionally think of the GM as the de facto head of the group.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that that's actually true, but it's kind of an in-game cultural standard.
Well, also they're the organizer. At the end of the day, if the thing falls apart, it's on them.
Yeah.
I have learned to be less of that when I'm running the game. I actually foist that stuff off to other people. For many, many years, I made Jen and them wanted to play games with me running them. I made them organize it. I said I'd show up and run it, but I wasn't organizing it anymore.
Okay.
See, I was the exact opposite, right? So I was, of course, right, because I was like the super organizer.
Yeah,
right.
I haven't completely laid off that. I still consider part of my responsibility to throw out a message to make sure everybody's playing that day. I make sure that I'm there if people have any issues, but honestly, this group isn't a group that has any issues anymore. That's not a thing that...
Some groups I do organize because I want to do a thing. Like the Over the Edge playtest, I organize that because I wanted to be a part of the playtest. Other groups, I'm like, we're playing every other Wednesday, show up.
Yeah.
Unless I say otherwise.
Yeah. Oh, here's a good one from Jerry. Jerry says, I've had times when I've brought things up the party each had problems with, but when I brought it up to the group, everyone sat silent and nobody complained to the group. Yes. This is an individual versus group thing where individuals have problems, but they become quiet within the group.
Yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes the GM has to then just kind of go underground, and instead of talking to the group, just go to the people and be like, look, you're being kind of disruptive to the game. No one's going to say it to you. I'm going to say it to you.
Because otherwise it could go to... that turns into the big group argument.
This garbage right here,
Yeah.
this is people not being adults.
Well, this is people not being honest.
So-
It's
so-
not being candid and honest with each other.
Correct. So when this stuff happens and I'm the game master, I know what's going on. I just say it because I don't deal with that. That's not what I want to spend my recreation time doing.
No, and I agree. I think that there's. I will say this: in my last 7 or so years of gaming since I've met you, I have had to not do a lot of that anymore, and it's super comforting.
Right?
I just play with people who want to play games, who are somewhat casual about it. I don't like to be super. I like to be. we talk about that micro focus thing where we can have a super detailed scene and then we can pull out and talk about something stupid that happened on the internet.
Sure.
And I'm kind of like really comfortable with that. It's a lot easier, but I'm also a lot more candid than I was in my 20s. Like now I'll tell you when I think something isn't working. Right? Like, I mean, like it happened, I guess we'll save it for the after show, but you know, there was a few moments during the Masks game where I was like, oh man, like the session's wearing on me. Mm-hmm. But you knew it too, right? You were like, yeah, taking away superpowers turned out not to be as good of an idea. And it was like, yeah, no, it's true. Like we're kind of stuck, but it was fine. And then, you know, when the game turned around fine, I have faith that I have faith that when you see something get stuck, you'll get us out of there. So I guess, and we've talked about this in the past when we talked about personal skills, but part of a good group is having trust in each other. Mm-hmm. Trust that you can express something without being attacked back for it, you know, and to be candid, to be able just to say like, I didn't like that thing and not have everyone like get hurt and upset about it. Like, like I had like a lot of problems not having my superpowers in the first part of that game. It got better. But it was, you know, it was tough. Like it was tough. And I know it was tough because I let Solar do something kind of bad. Yeah. Because I was getting afraid was the right word. Like, I didn't like what was happening. And so I let, I encouraged Nikki to do something really bad in the game.
It was interesting. I was wanting to see how the kids would react. You folks playing the kids without your powers. And it went really, really wrong.
Yeah.
I really hope to use some of that stuff that happened there in the future.
I mean, it's all gameable.
It's absolutely going to spill over.
Well, there also has to be this whole thing where, kind of patch things up because it got kind of, I think at one point I used the word prison rules. Like,
I'm pretty sure you did, and that's totally where your character went.
Yeah, my favorite part was how Jibo was like, you guys can't do this.
Right, and I was like, nope, prison rules. Like...
And he still was sad about, or she was still sad about it after the fact.
I had a good scene actually with Nikki where I kind of got rid of my guilt about it because I talked to her about it, but I haven't talked to the rest of the group.
I enjoyed being your Solar and telling you like,
what are you doing, man? Like, it was true. Well, he needed Solar needed that moment where, in that dream sequence because I got my ass knocked out.
At that same time, though, while that was going on, my character was none too pleased about it, but it gave me a reason to bond more with Sean's character
because now we had more communication channels.
Yeah.
It actually was good because there's not a pressure on you because there's so few channels.
Right.
Like you were able to be like, I can divest from Solar right now.
Yeah.
And I can put my character investment somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And in fact, the same thing happened to me because in the previous one, I was getting a lot tighter with you and Bob, and I actually turned around and bonded back to Nikki.
Yep.
So that actually was a really interesting, like, it's good. It's really good that we added people.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can if people want to hear more about the Masks game, we could definitely take that into the after show
and into a future episode probably.
Yeah.
Here we go. It's the social media depository where first we're going to do an ad for the Queen City Conquest. So Phil, it's almost September. Do you know what that means?
The Queen City Conquest is coming.
That's right. It's September 8th through the 10th in Buffalo, New York, man.
Don't calm down, man. Be excited. It's awesome, and I am glad you're excited, and we're going to be there in 3 weeks.
We are. It's going to be amazing. Especially, it's going to be so great because we didn't have a Gen Con this year.
We had Origins.
We had an Origins, but we haven't had a Gen Con. I'm excited for the rest of the convention season to start for me because, this begins the whole, like, I get to go to Gamehole, and I'll probably be at a Con or Con on the Cob, and, I can't wait. I'm ready I'm going to burst.
Well, let's see if we can't calm you down a little bit and talk about what's going on at the QCC.
Okay. So there's a ton of role-playing games, from Powered by the Apocalypse games to a whole mess of D&D.
I'm going to be running Hydra Hackers at least twice. What about you, Glenn?
I'm going to be running SIG, Manual of the Primes, on Sunday afternoon.
Jason was very happy to hear that.
Cool. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to it.
Is that it?
That's all I'm running, yeah.
Cool. I'm running some Dungeon World, and we're going to do the Play Better Games Dammit seminar on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Currently, there's close to or maybe over 200 events already registered for this convention.
That's pretty sweet. Bob's going to be there. He's going to run board game demos of our encoded board games at our encoded table. Just look for the Just look for the encoded sign.
Yes, yes. Sunday, it's Family Day. That means the Superhero Alliance will be there, dressed up in superhero costumes and whatnot, hanging out with the kids.
Kick ass.
There's a class tournament. If you don't know what class is like it's sort of like air hockey-ish type thing. Where
I've seen it.
It's magnetic.
With the magnets under the table.
Yeah, so it's like an air hockey table.
I totally want to see that.
It's got some bumpers on it. You put, instead of using the bumpers on top of the table though, they're magnetic and they're on the bottom of the table. So you have to like be a little bit more careful. It's pretty cool looking. There's also a Magic the Gathering learning game for kids. There's a bunch of kid-friendly RPGs that day and a bunch of other events.
Saturday, there's going to be gaming till 2 a.m. in the Hyatt across from the convention center.
I may be running Night's Black Agents that night.
Nice.
Sweet.
Glenn, you're not looking at the show notes, are you? So there are some special guests there, too. In fact, Stacey Delaferrano from Contessa is one of the special guests.
She's running some Sword and Wizardry, which I'm playing it.
Yeah, very exciting. And then Robert Aducci, one of the D&D AL admins, is coming to town and running his author-only adventure a bunch of times.
Do you realize that? We're bringing in 2 people from Denver?
Because I know Sunday's coming too.
Yeah, exactly. And a bunch of other guests are going to be there. You can see the whole list on the Queen City Conquest website, which we'll have in the show notes.
So come on out, hang out with us at the QCC, and play some amazing games.
Do.
I'm going to start using the lightning.
No, don't. Not the shitty lightning.
What, you don't like my shitty lightning thing?
Yeah, no. No.
You make me so sad with that.
No, the lightning is like literally, I can't think of another sound. I'm just going to use the lightning.
I mean, yeah. I suppose I'll
and
do
it
something.
hurts my ear, man. It's kind of loud.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the secret. It hurts my ear, and
Is
I'm a diva.
Is that why you're a diva?
Yeah.
We love you and your divaness, Phil. Without your divaness, it wouldn't be the show that it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as I was stalling for time, I was opening up a thing. We're going to talk about RPG a day once again. And my favorite question from this past week was the one about the gaming experience that was most impactful on you.
I know I didn't have a chance to write this one. Can I tell it after
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
do
You tell me yours right now.
So I actually wrote mine in God, what book is that? The improv book.
Which improv book? The
one by Engine. Unframed.
Oh, Unframed, yeah.
So I wrote this story in Unframed. It was the first time I ever had an improv moment in a game. And it was my D20 heist game. And it was one of the players passed me a note and didn't show up to the meeting, the planning meeting for the heist, because he was strung out on drugs. And it led to this incredible dramatic fight scene as they went to go get him help and get him off drugs. But it was the moment that taught me that you did not have to have the whole game written, that players could do stuff spontaneously and take the game in a completely different direction. And once I saw that, I could never go back. That's how I wound up in story games and all that stuff, and why we're here and all that. So I wrote, if you've ever read Unframed, you can read the whole story in that essay.
So real quick before I tell mine. So Jared Rasher, he writes, and I have to read this because it's fascinating to me because of how it impacts actually me too. My one and only Gen Con in 2008, I was part of Nick Logue's Giant Drow event where we were playing to determine what house would be ascendant in the city. Mm-hmm. Each house had a sphere of influence and a collection of members. I helped write some of that, and I ran it.
Philippe.
Like, I was one of the people that ran it.
Right, one of my good friends, Philippe the Chatty DM, was also there running it.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I remember sitting with him before the event started, and we were kind of chatting about what was going to happen in that game.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I can't believe it. That's the convention that I ran 9 slots of Pathfinder. So for those people who think that when I say I don't like Pathfinder, it's not a game for me. Like, they're like, oh, you probably never played it. I've played a lot of Pathfinder. There's been a lot of Pathfinder in my life. That's right, Jared. We almost met. You might have been at my table once or twice too. I mean, I was running games. I had a table that was one of the tables that people could come to.
That was the one that culminated in picking like the new Drow ruler, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it was.
Whichever house was in.
Yeah,
charge
like
at
the houses were all.
Yeah, but they wrecked that place. Like Jared puts it in there. Like somebody who had a shadow dragon fight from somebody awoke the Trask. They're like wrecking things left and right. It got nutty.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a table at one point where there were 2 different groups there, and then parts of a third group fighting each other for a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm adjudicating that for 15, 16 people.
Right. And then like they would yell out stuff, right? Like as things would happen in the game.
Yeah, pretty much. So Senda asked if 9 in a row. Yeah, I ran 2 slots a day, and then on whatever night that was, I ran 2 slots during the day, and then I ran 1 slot at night.
That was Gen Con, right?
Yeah.
And as impressive as that sounds, and it is impressive, because I remember this from the show. Mark Napick actually ran more stuff than you, didn't he?
No, not that year.
Oh, not, but in other years where
I don't think so. I ran. If you do the math,
I thought. I mean, Mark had like a pretty brutal.
Because the Drow event was a 6-hour event. So I ran I ran 8 4-hour events, 32 plus a 6 hour, so 38 hours of gaming. I ran.
I don't even do things I like for 38 hours.
You're not doing it right then.
Nah.
No.
I'm doing it right.
So my actual moment is at UBCon about a decade ago. I met Nick Gloag, and I know Nick. He's actually a patron of the show now.
Oh yeah,
yeah, which is pretty cool. So Nick, he's an actor and a teacher at the college level. He has lots of improv training. He's worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company. Like he's pretty legit as far as that world goes. Needless to say, he ran the game more akin to what would become my Dungeon World and PBA style of gaming. It was like storytelling and hard choices and dramatic moments and making things happen on every cast of the dice and energy. Tons and tons of energy. And it was a transformative experience for me because I've never seen a game until that point that was played that way before, because we were playing an Eberron D&D 3.5 game. And it didn't feel like a D&D game at all. Like it was just this cinematic, wonderful game, and the dice informed what was going to happen next instead of saying pass fail. And that's the first time I ever ran into that.
I've actually read the longer version of that story in a manuscript you and I were working on a while ago. Yeah, it's a good story.
I was on the G Plus community and I answered it was fiasco for me. And I think I'd played it, and it was the first time I'd really played an improvisational style game. And it really just changed the way I play.
I remember my first, I reviewed Fiasco for Gnome Stew. I was like one of the first wave of reviewers when that game came out. And I had the same thing. Like I brought it. I got a couple friends who were pretty much traditional role players, and one who didn't really role play, who just played 40K.
Right.
And we ran in a suburban town.
Okay.
We were crying. Like it was so crazy. Like, again, I can't tell you the story about it, but it was it was amazing. And I actually take that back. I can tell the story, but I'm not going to hear. I actually wrote the story on Gnome Stew. If you go look on Gnome Stew, there's a 2-part story that tells the story of Fiasco and the mechanics of Fiasco.
Awesome.
Crazy ass game. Yeah. Kind of, it's like that awakening. Like you're like, wait, you can do this with a game?
Exactly.
And then it's like, what other games do this? Because I know this because my bookshelf went from being 8.5 by 11 books to 6 by 9 books.
Yeah.
You actually,
Seems
it's like
legit.
a geological record. If you actually go to my bookcase over there, you can see the last year of 8.5 by 11 books and see when the 6 by 9 started.
It's a bibliological record.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. See some fossils in there. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next thing. So this one's from Lonnie Spangler about Worlds in Peril. He's been playing the Worlds in Peril and messing with the Worlds in Peril and hacking the Worlds in Peril. I thought we could put our design hats for a second as he brings this up. So it's PBTA. He loves the way that the powers are abstracted. He doesn't like so much exactly how the things interact as far as bonds and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
He really likes the takedown move. I hate the takedown move because of how the mechanic ties into the conditions, and the conditions are stupid in that game.
Well, I don't think you like the conditions. Let's back up and let's address the root cause. The
conditions are bad, but the move, like if you roll high enough, you can like assign different types of like a bunch of little ones or a medium one or a heavy one, and because of that system being broken, in my opinion, not working with the game correctly, the move goes away. Like the move structure is fine. Like it's a cool move, but
the move is right. The idea of takedown is right.
Yeah.
But because of the system, because there's problems with the condition system, the wording of that move is problematic because it all it does is feed right into that system. Yeah, I remember you and I had, when we played Worlds in Peril, we finished a game one night and you and I spent like another hour and a half trying to wrap our heads around conditions. Like we just sat down here and like kept talking and talking, thought we got it, and much like the ending of Akira, thought we got it, and then like the next week we didn't
have it because because those things just don't work right, man. They don't, and he talks about that. So he wants to replace conditions with stress tracks similar to Cortex plus Heroic, which is not the worst idea I've seen. The physical, mental, emotional things, maybe complication tracks, because that works. Because if you have if it's this. Those stress tracks work in similar ways to like the Fate stress tracks. Like you fill in bubbles, right?
Right.
So a 3, you could just drop it in the 3 track, right? And if you hit another 3 or whatever, it'll just bump it up. So
Yeah. I mean, I have conditions in Hydra Hackers, but the conditions are tied to your attributes. And the second you take a damage to a condition, you now roll that attribute at disadvantage.
yeah, that's a thing. I mean, I don't know if I would want that in a superhero game.
No, not in a superhero game. My game's like gritty. Like you get shot, like that's punishing in that game.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
I mean, I like the idea of what he's got here because that makes some amount of sense to me.
You know,
I don't know how you put the tracks on there, but then it makes sense for the minor, medium, and major ones because then you can drop them in there.
You know what would be fun? I don't know necessarily possible, but fun would be to not have personal condition tracks for yourselves or the villains, but instead have like a tug of war thing on the table so that you're basically playing to kind of narrate what happens. You know what I mean? Like you're just pushing back and forth, and eventually if the players can push the tug of war upwards enough or to their side, they can start narrating like the cool things that are like how they're beating the villains. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out here.
I'm thinking. I'm not. This is
You're not hating it, but you're not sure yet.
Well, I mean, it's super abstract, right? Like,
Yeah, but I mean, comic book. I mean, one of the things I love in Masks is that, and again, this works in Masks, but characters don't take physical damage. In Masks, you take emotional damage.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking of in this game would be more like narrative damage. Mm-hmm. Like the better you do rolling, the more you can push the narrative in your direction.
Isn't that kind of how the game works already?
yeah, it's already how the game kind of works. It's just it's not implemented very well.
Yeah, it's just the conditions are kind of weird. Those major, minor.
Yeah,
like,
it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean.
Now here's a way to do it.
Jared's got a point. It sounds like who has control of the match in Worldwide Wrestling.
I was about to say that a lot of comic book fights
Kind of are a lot of like wrestling
fights.
matches. Yeah,
I mean, you have to pick what kind of fight it is too. Like, is this a team fight? Is this a throwdown where you're not sure what's going on? Is this a squash match?
Is this just to humiliate the I mean, basically that's your stakes. Like,
correct.
Is Spider-Man going to capture the Rhino? Is the Rhino planning to just stomp Spider-Man and get away with the money, or is the Green Goblin going to slit Spider-Man's throat if he wins?
Now, your tug of war mechanic,
Yeah.
I actually like that mechanic. I only have one problem with it, is that what I would do to it is I would put a timed element on it so that the tug of war eventually ends.
Yes.
And my timed element would be, how many pages in the book is it? Because the more pages, the more significant the fight.
Oh, yeah. Like that's getting like kind of meta on a comic book, but in a really good way.
Well, yeah, and then because usually as pages get flipped,
Yeah.
You're supposed to escalate. Like there's supposed to be more drama and things on the page turn. So then you have some sort of escalation mechanic, and they're like, well, now everybody's taking more hits.
Well, so now you can talk about like rounds or hours. Like this fight is going to only last like 4 rounds. Like this is Spider-Man fighting some bank thugs.
Right.
Like
Yeah, this is a probably a 2-panel fight.
yeah, or this
Or
is
not a 2-panel, like a 1-page
right,
fight
or this is
whatever.
Spidey who's not maybe he's going to capture like the Hobgoblin minion guy.
He's he's trying to capture the Hobgoblin minion guy.
Yeah.
How many pages is
Yeah,
that worth?
is he going to get? Because if the pages run out, my guy's getting away.
Yeah, and
Oh,
Bob
that's
Everson
kinda
just said this is
interesting.
almost a show topic. I mean, we're designing part of a game here.
Yeah,
at this
no, it's
point.
kind of fun.
I don't know. What do you think, Glenn?
I'm still not seeing like what the because again, like any of these games, like it's built in the fiction. So however the fiction flows is how it works. I'm just wondering like how would you put the tug of war in there? Like what would be? Yeah, I mean Do you have? I'm not entirely familiar with Worlds in Peril. Are there actual pages that you have to go through, or
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm making up a thing because it says describe like a comic book. I'm pretty sure in Worlds in Peril it's like that too. Describe like a superhero.
I think it talks about panels and stuff. Like, because I think their panels is what they use for like turns or something. If I remember correctly from the
Something
game.
like that, yeah.
I can get the book off the shelf.
They make that reference in that game too. That game is not the best written game. I know why it's not the best written game. I know what happened with that game. I'm not going to talk about it now.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's a beautiful game. It was one of the first superhero implementations of Powered by the Apocalypse. I've played it a couple times. It's got a few challenges. There's some things I really like about it. I do like the mix and match of the hero type and your drive kind of thing.
I actually hate that.
Do you? I didn't mind that. It didn't bother me.
Powered by the Apocalypse powered by the apocalypse games that make me do that drive me crazy.
Oh,
I
okay.
just want my playbook.
I mean, I get that. I mean, I will say this: given my choice, my favorite powered by the apocalypse superheroes game is Masks.
Same here.
I think Masks, but Masks is really funny because Masks is a superhero game, but it's kind of really more a game about feelings.
Exactly.
But it's in a really good way. Like what it does really well. Like in my experiences, I just really have enjoyed it so far.
It's good for that specific experience. Like you couldn't really take that over to a cyberpunk game. You know what I mean?
No, Cyber Generations maybe.
Yeah.
Remember that old Artel story?
Right,
Yeah,
yes, I do.
It would totally play Cyber Generations.
Oh yeah.
I always have a little bit of a problem with Masks because it's so emotional based that when I actually have the superhero throwdowns, it doesn't feel like a superhero throwdown a lot of times.
I don't know.
In my head, because
We haven't taken anybody out yet.
well, I've taken some people out.
Yeah, I got my ass knocked
He got
out.
his ass knocked out last game.
So did somebody else.
Well, yes. I mean, like actually taking somebody out where like where all the conditions are filled.
Is that I forget how that
No,
works. How does that work?
I almost got close to that, but I just
Yeah.
took the knockout instead.
Right.
What if you do get all your conditions filled? I don't know. I can't remember. It hasn't happened yet.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because you took a powerful blow and got the 10 plus and got taken out of that game, and taken out of that scene.
Yeah, I could
it
have taken two conditions, but it seemed like for the fiction. I mean, I got punched by the big troll. Like
Yeah.
I was like
The mole troll.
the mole troll. Like I was like, I think I just go down. Like I
Yeah.
don't think there's a way I come out of this standing up. Like I think I just face down on the ground.
But we were able to revive you later, though.
Yeah.
That same scene.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I was going for one thing, which
Hmm.
was we were wearing those inhibitor collars. I wanted Bob to get the key because that was going to be the turn of the fight. So
True.
I was like,
It was.
And as leader, I was like, I will take the knockout if it keeps the mole troll from blocking Bob from the key.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm just going to go down.
And all it is you're taken out of the scene until the next scene. Sometimes there are repercussions. Like there's no like superhero death in this game, really.
No,
No.
that's the thing about Masks. Masks is like that's not what Masks is about. Masks is very much a game about teenage feelings with a superhero backdrop, which is why, who is it? Jason LaValle, who loves Cyber Generations. I can't believe he hasn't drifted Masks into a Cyber Gen game because it is the one way you could totally play Cyberpunk with Masks is playing those teenage upstart with the nanite, all those nanite implants rebelling against the corporate man. Like,
Yeah.
oh fuck, I'm gonna play that game.
Now to be fair,
gonna go make
Bob
some
Everson just said,
playbooks.
except to Morph, who died, which Morph is the Doomed.
Well, Morph wanted to die.
Morph was playing the Doomed, and the Doom thing that happened to him came up, and he got killed in the end.
Did I say Jason or Jonathan?
Jonathan, you said Jonathan.
I
thought you
said Jonathan, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I say Jason, but Jonathan LaValle. Loved CyberGen and would love this game.
Yeah, so, I mean, Mass is more of a, I need to think more about how to Teen Titans you.
I don't know how much you have to, I don't know how much you have to do. Like everything you're doing is good because everything that we do afterwards, I guess I think of it like this. I need you to make a few situations so that I can go yell at everyone else. Like your situations are good, right? Like time where Nikki walked off with the bad guy and, the rest of us got into the fight. This one where, we got kind of dark and desperate. Like the situations you're creating are good. The thing that I don't think you can create is the drama between the characters. Like we'll do that work.
Yeah.
We just need the situations that strain us. Like picking up those conditions because the way to get rid of those conditions tells you on the card.
Yell at each other, do bad things.
Is right. So we just need you to put some pressure so that we rack a few of them up, then sit back and enjoy the show because this group
Pretty
will
much.
do the work and get rid of them for
we
you.
all have a ton of them now.
Yeah, I actually have a few less, but yeah, Bob's got a bunch.
I have two.
It's made me rethink my prep for that game, though, too, which is I need to make more... I need to flesh out my NPCs a little bit more so I know what they want. So that when they're arguing with the kids...
Yeah.
And when they're pushing forth their influence, it's for specific reasons.
Yeah, why? It's like you made it clear in the last game. Like the Elemental 4 is some of them like us. Yeah. Okay. I realize we've kind of drifted. I'm sure people have actually enjoyed hearing about our Masks game. But we did drift a bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Sorry about that. But,
Sorry,
but hopefully
if Bob was here, he probably would have pulled us back
We're
in.
going long. Anyways, I hope, Lonnie,
Bob.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation, and I think your stress track idea is great.
Yeah, I
think
do
if
too.
you take
Think
the
it's good.
minor,
Yeah.
medium, and major whatevers and just turn them into hitting the stress tracks, I think
Yep.
that would be perfect, like Fate does.
Mhm.
That'd be really good.
I concur.
All right, next thing. What are we doing next?
Patron shout out.
Patron shoutouts. Patreon shoutouts. Fantabulous. Okay, Patreon shoutouts. Rob Whitaker, Nikki Lewandowski, Merrick Blackman, Jared Rasher, Robert Aducci, Craig, Eileen Barnes, and Stephen Farrell.
Oh, good. My tennis elbow's healed. I'm going to see Steven at the QCC, and hopefully he won't blow out my arm.
Hopefully not, yeah, because every time he grips your arm,
Oh, God.
your tennis elbow goes nutty, right?
God.
Just the worst.
It was. I mean, I think it's all healed now, but there was like a couple months where I saw him last summer where my arm would not heal. Okay, strong handshake. Strong handshake. Okay.
By the way, Jared Rasher agrees with me. He thinks that there should be more solid playbooks in Worlds in Peril.
Yeah, no.
I'm just kidding.
No, it's.
I don't actually think there's
it's
anything
like-
wrong with that design.
Hey, listen, I made solid playbooks for Hydra hackers.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
but
solid as hell.
I don't think there's anything.
No, it's a philosophy. The mix
Yeah.
and match playbook versus a solid playbook.
I should say that I don't think that's a design problem or a design mistake. I just don't have that preference is not mine.
I think it produces a very different effect. I think the fractured playbook is a mix and match thing where it's not creating a specific experience, it's creating two elements that you're going to put together to try to make an experience, as opposed to a very directed playbook, which is saying this is not only the character you're going to play, but the moves inform you this is how you're going to be.
It's true.
Yeah. So I think it's and I think that leans a lot harder on tropes. And I will say for that as my reference, check out the Paladin from Dungeon World. That's a super tropey. Character.
The Barbarian
playbook.
is too.
Yeah, the Barbarian. I fucking love the Barbarian.
Actually, a lot of those playbooks are pretty tropey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they're on purpose tropey.
Yeah. In the I say tropey in the best way
Yeah,
possible.
that's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
they're very archetypical.
Yeah. In fact, your best bet for Dungeon World playbooks is to lean into that trope and not away from it.
Uh-huh.
If you
Yeah.
don't think if you look at that book and don't make a connection with it, go pick up another one.
Okay.
Do
Well,
it.
with that, thank you everyone so much for listening tonight.
If you are free Tuesday evenings, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, 6:45 p.m. the Queen's time, you're welcome. Come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with other listeners in our ever awesome chat room for life, and then occasionally ask us some questions.
They were awesome tonight. They were great. I
They were
very much
awesome because you were
enjoyed it.
playing with them tonight.
I mean, I had a good time with them. They're awesome every night. What are we talking about
Yes,
here?
they are actually awesome.
If you cannot make it to the live show, check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts, and take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Threats from Gallifrey, Advantage to Insight, Pandas Talking Games, Cypher Speak with Darcy and Troy, the Gnome Cast, The Streets of Avalon with the Wednesday Evening Podcast All-Stars, which is over in Avante starts this week, the Hobbs and Friends of the OSR podcast. That's the last one.
That's a lot of shows.
It is a few shows. You can and should also check out some of our brother and sister podcasts. She's a Super Geek, the Knights of the Night, and the Always Amazing Gaming and BS.
Yes. And then, I don't have anything witty. Then, after you've listened to the show, and before you jump on into our group, leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly. Chris at misdirectedmark.com.
That's me.
Phil at misdirectedmark.com.
Dust Devil 75.
There
Right?
we go.
And yes, on the Twitters.
On the
Oh,
Twitters.
we haven't gotten to the Twitters.
Darn.
Bob at misdirectedmark.com.
He's
still
not here.
out there.
He's out there somewhere.
Check out our Facebook group. Hit us up on Twitter at DNA Phil, at DustDevil75,
Correct.
at The Light 101, of course, at Misdirected Mark.
Yaha.
And always check out the center of all of our social media, our G Plus community.
Where we would love to add you as a new player.
Request to be added.
If you like what we do here and on other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMP. We are almost at $300 a month, which I appreciate. Thank you so much. It helps let me do this. Seriously, like I actually can't do this anymore if I don't get paid. Patrons get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Pandas Talking Games bonus outtakes, bi-weekly D&D offerings if I can manage to put them out there, and other special releases as they come up. In fact, I feel like there's a couple of parodies in the work. Well, with that, this has been a Misdirected Mark production, which is the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out!